And good evening to everybody out there. I am attorney Michael Bender, and I want to welcome you to our webinar this evening. Stop living with your debt crisis, ways to get out of debt and lift the stress of being chased by creditors. This is very, very poignant these days. Hopefully we'll get some of your questions answered, some myths debunked, and help you look at options in getting out of debt. As I said, I am attorney Michael Bender with New Tomorrow Law, where we help good people get out of debt today so they can start their new tomorrow. Today is Wednesday, May 19th, 2021. This webinar is being recorded. And if you're joining us today, if you have any questions, please use the Q&A section. The chat will not be monitored. Moving right along, of course, with any good legal presentation, we do have to put our disclaimer on there. I'll go ahead and read it verbatim. The information provided by the individuals in this presentation is for general purposes only. Opinions of presenters here are based on the individual analysis of general information provided. Nothing should be construed as the legal, tax, investment, or loan advice of your specific situation. Viewing this webinar does not create a professional client relationship with New Tomorrow Law, APC. And with that, we'll move right along to our presentation. The reason why we are doing our webinar today is because Americans are struggling with debt. Here in Riverside County, our offices are located in Marietta, so in order to focus on Riverside County here, the median household income for a household size of 4 is $75,300 per year. Now, after taxes, deductions, take-home pay, that's more like $50,000 a year. So $50,000 cash, even on an income of $75,000 plus, really is only a little bit more than $4,000 a month for expenses. And we all know when sometimes that paycheck doesn't come in, those expenses aren't met and debt has to be incurred. So that's where we find debt being driven up, just because there's not enough money out there to pay the bills. Debt statistics here in California, looking at household mortgages. Obviously, we know household values are skyrocketing these days, and this figure is probably not accurate given a lot of the new homes that are being purchased out there. But the average mortgage in California is actually $363,000 and $891. That's the principal value of the mortgage. The monthly payment on that is $2,300. And if you go back to, we look back at that previous slide with the average income, it's just over $4,000 per month in disposable income for the average Californian family. More than half of that is going towards a mortgage. Now, for those that rent, it's estimated that here in California, there are 1.4 million Californians behind in their rent payments. That's as of today. Now, in addition to that, actually, for those who are behind in rent payments, the average back rent owed is over $6,000. Actually, $6,039 owed back rent. That's multiple months that the average Californian who's behind is behind. So it's going to be very difficult to catch up. Now, in addition to the rent or the mortgage, let's look at credit card debt. This is nationwide. The average household has a credit card debt of over $8,000. So Americans these days are putting more and more on credit card debt. It's going up every month, over $8,000 If no payments are being made to that, or very limited payments are being made to that, it's going to be very difficult to get out of that debt. Let's do a little bit of debt math real quick. So we have somebody who pays rent. Their rent is $2,000 per month, 6 months behind in rent. That is over $12,000 of late fees, past due rent, just penalties and so forth. That's going to be a very, very difficult to get out of debt. Now, in addition to that, let's take that average U.S. household of $8,000 in credit card debt. This family, there it is, over $20,000 in debt. Now, take that $75,000 annual income. That's a significant portion of that. It's going to take a long time to be able to get out of that debt. One more scenario here. Somebody has $15,000 of credit card debt. It's just about double the average American, but the average is the average. So looking at somebody who has a lot of debt here, $15,000. Credit cards are high interest. So at 18% interest, and if this person is not using this credit card for any additional purchases, not relying on this credit card at all, let's say they go ahead and pay $300 per month towards that $15,000 plus all that interest. You know how long it's going to take this debtor to go ahead and pay off that debt? 7 years and 10 months. That is a long time to be paying $300 every single month. Now let's just do some quick math here real quick. That's $300 times 96 months. To pay down that $15,000 at 18% interest over that period of time, the debtor is not just paying $15,000. Debtor's paying over $28,000 at that rate over the course of 7 years. That is a lot of money to be paying above and beyond what has already been used. The key here is anybody who's watching, anybody who's out there, you're not alone in struggling with this debt. A lot of Americans, a lot of Californians, a lot of those here in our town are struggling with debt. So the whole reason you guys came here today, what are the ways to get out of debt? I'm going to do a little overview and go a little bit in depth in each of these. So ways to get out of debt. First way, you can go ahead, knuckle down, budget your way out of debt. Second way, credit counseling, credit repair. There's ways of using credit and dealing with the credit and getting rid of the debt that's out there through these agencies. Debt settlement. You can actually wind up not having to pay all of the debt that that exists out there. And then finally, there's the option to declare bankruptcy. We're going to go a little bit more in depth on that one today because there's a lot of myths with bankruptcy that really need to be dispelled and a lot of misunderstanding about it, that people think they're going to lose everything. Well, you're not. So we're going to go into that a little bit more in depth. But let's talk about budgeting real quick. The traditional thought behind budgeting. Let me take how much I earn in income every month. So that'd be your W-2. If you're on unemployment right now, you know exactly how much is coming in per week. Let's look at the expenses. I have my house payment, whether it's rent or a mortgage. I've got to pay for various school expenses, gas. How expensive is gas these days? Every time I drive to and from work, I just see that it going up penny by penny by penny, even 5 pennies, 10 pennies every single day. It is getting up there. What other expense? Groceries. There's a lot of expenses that we have out there, but the traditional thinking is I have this income, I have these expenses, what I have left over, that's what I can use to pay down my debt. Now, we talk expenses too. This is the fun stuff. This is, well, what can we do these days? Eventually, we'll be able to go to the movies or go out to dinner, go to the ball game. Yeah, you can actually go to the ball game now, which is good. But these are all the expenses that you need to account for when you're looking at budgeting. But this is the traditional thinking of budgeting. What do I have? What do I have to spend every month? This is what's left over. The better way of thinking about budgeting and creating that budget, take the income that you have. Again, what are you getting from your job? Odds and ends that you're doing. If you're selling some stuff, your unemployment, you know what that income is going to be. Decide how much you want to pay on that debt every month. Go online, look at the calculator. That's how I came up with that figure before, as far as the 7 years, 10 months to pay down that debt. Figure out how much debt do you have? How long do you want to pay to be paying it off with that interest rate? Decide that payment. Is it $100? Is it $200? Is it $500 a month? Set that amount. Then that's what you have left over to pay your expenses every month. And I could do the whole cliche, how much is Starbucks, $5 a day, blah, blah, blah. But you really need to look at it from a budgeting perspective of this is the fixed amount that I want to pay down on my debt. I have to squeeze my expenses into this box over here. And if it doesn't fit, it's not going to get paid. I'm not going to be able to do it. I'm going to have to figure out how to reduce my cable bill or internet or YouTube, all these streaming services. I'm going to go ahead. Yeah, I'm going to reduce the amount of times I go to Starbucks, or instead of getting that huge latte and whatever you get these days, I go get a grande pike, $1.95. That's how much it is. Or you get that K-cup at home, get that coffee at home. So those expenses are determined after you figure out how long you want to pay down your debt and how much you're going to be paying towards that debt. So that's the key to budgeting. Now, other ways, you can talk with a CPA, a financial planner, even a coach. There's people out there that can help you budget. Get your spreadsheet out. Get that mindset going that let's pay off this debt. There's programs out there. Dave Ramsey. I'm not endorsing Dave Ramsey. I'm just saying that there's books that you can get. Read Total Money Makeover. He uses the Baby Steps program. Drawbacks to budgeting right now. That debt, as we go back to that calculation from before, $15,000, 18% interest, $300 a month in payments, 96 months. That's 10 years, 7 years, 10 months of paying down debt. It can take a long time to pay down that debt. So let's talk about credit counseling, credit repair. Some people call it debt consolidation. Now, what you can do for debt consolidation is take all of these credit cards out there, transfer balances around, put it on another credit card. But the key is don't use the old credit card that you transferred the balance from, because then you're just going to rack up more debt. Oh, one thing I really wanted to make sure I talked about when we talk about budgeting, let me just go back to the budgeting slide real quick. The key is not just to say, I'm going to pay this when I can, or I'm going to make more money next year, or I'm going to do it. Get a plan. That's great if you're going to try those other things. Pay it off when you can, make more money, so on and so forth. But the key is you've got to make a plan to get out of that debt. Okay, back to debt consolidation. There's balance transfers on credit cards, but destroy that old credit card. Do not use it anymore. Do not rack up credit card debt, and then work on paying down that one credit card. Or personal loans. Your bank, your credit union, you can go to them, decide, hey, I have all this debt, I need to consolidate it and just pay this one debt. Now, there's companies out there that do this. My warning to you is there's a potential for predatory lending on that, as well as sometimes you find that these can be really, really high interest rates. So you could be going from a credit card with a decent interest rate to a loan that has a much higher interest rate or balloon payment. There could be a lot of traps in there. Debt disputes. This is big when there's a collection agency involved. You didn't pay that Verizon bill that when you moved 2 years ago. Now they're coming after you for $400, $500. Well, you got a collection agency coming after you now. There's law firms out there that actually deal with the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. This can be for that utility. It can be for third parties going after you for credit card missed payments and so forth. So you can actually dispute debt and have it wiped out if a collection agency is not actually doing things the right way. The next way, you really can't get out of debt entirely this way, but through credit repair. Credit repair will primarily look at erasing dings on the credit. Maybe you had those 30, 60, 90 day late payments. Credit repair agencies can actually go in, dispute these, get them off of your credit report, and help raise that credit score. So in the future, you can actually get a loan at a better interest rate because you have a higher credit score. But again, this is more for repair as opposed to getting rid of the debt. Local company, again, not endorsing, but saying that there's companies out there, dedicated credit repair. Look them up online, a great resource that you can use. Another way of getting out of debt, debt settlement, debt resolution. You can actually contact the creditors directly. Hey, I owe you $2,000. Will you accept $1,500? You can also work with a debt resolution company. Now, the key is with these, the credit card companies don't have to accept your offer. Or if you're working with a debt resolution company, now if you contact them directly, you don't have to accept it. Sometimes they will, sometimes they won't. But if you're working with a debt resolution company, they're going to act on your behalf. And sometimes the credit companies, they don't respond. But you're still paying this debt resolution company thinking, hey, they're going to take care of it all, and they don't. When you try debt settlement or debt resolution, it leaves you vulnerable to lawsuits. Even if there is an agreement, you take $1,500, we'll pay $100 a month. If you miss that payment, they're going to come after you for the entire amount. So, fair warning on those. Last way of getting out of debt, I'm going to go in depth on this, is bankruptcy. What bankruptcy will do can actually get rid of all of your debts in less than 6 months. It will stop collection efforts immediately upon filing, and it can protect assets from being taken by creditors. Now, here's the fun part I have. You've probably seen this show. I declare bankruptcy. Not as easy as that. We're going to get a little bit more in depth on that in just a second. Now, why bankruptcy might be your best option. I talked about it before. That $15,000 at 18%, $300 a month. What if you don't have that $300 a month? What if you only have $100 a month? Or you're actually going in the hole every single month? Trying to budget, trying all these companies to try and resolve it, that's not going to help you. Bankruptcy is going to help you get that immediate fresh start. It can wipe out most debts in less than 6 months. If you're below that state median, which there's a chart and you got to qualify under certain things, but if you don't have that disposable income, you might qualify and get rid of that debt immediately. Now, why do people typically file for bankruptcy? That debt has got too high. Here's the reasons. Here's the top reasons. Job loss. Talked about getting that income earlier when doing budgeting. Job loss. Oh, I've budgeted, but now I've lost my job. I don't have that income coming in. The unemployment is less than what I was making. Now, might want to look at filing for bankruptcy to get rid of all that debt that was out there because you can't pay it down. Unforeseen medical expenses, medical emergency. We don't know what's going to happen to us. The emergencies come out of the blue. Ambulance ride. That could be thousands of dollars. Health insurance only covers so much. If you don't have health insurance, medical expenses are going to be super high. A divorce. A divorce can quite often leads to a bankruptcy just because of the amount of a debt that could have led to the divorce. Now you're going from one house to two houses, expenses there. You had two incomes, now one income. That can lead it. And then, of course, a pandemic. We've seen this is leading to a lot of bankruptcies. Why is bankruptcy, or what are the various options that you have with bankruptcy? Go through these quickly. You hear commonly people talking about a Chapter 7. That's a liquidation. Don't think that you're going to lose all your property, but a Chapter 7 is typically what an individual goes ahead and will file. An individual can also file for a Chapter 13. That's a no interest repayment plan. Chapter 7, if you actually have a lot of debt, this is millions of dollars of debt, you would have to go through a Chapter 7 reorganization. Or if you're a family farmer, fisherman, you can file for a Chapter 12. Let's focus on that Chapter 7 bankruptcy and why this, am I eligible for a Chapter 7 bankruptcy? First, you got to ask yourself, do I have debt? I guess it's actually, do I have debt that I want to get rid of? Pretty quick. Do you live paycheck to paycheck? Again, paycheck to paycheck, that money coming in, those expenses, you have nothing left at the end of the month. You're using that debt. You're using that debt to rely on, to make those expenses because you're servicing it. You're making those monthly payments. It's a never-ending cycle here. Do you have available assets that you want to protect? You want to keep? Do you have a car, a house, some money in the bank that you want to keep? You can actually keep that in a Chapter 7 bankruptcy. And then if you file for Chapter 7 bankruptcy or Chapter 13 bankruptcy, there's some time limitations on when you can actually file again. But those are very, very simple. We look at it. Did you file before? When are you eligible to file again? Because you can file again. It's not just one option in a lifetime. You can file again. Okay, common questions, misconceptions. Creditors, will the creditors stop harassing and calling me? Can I keep my house from being foreclosed or my car from being repossessed? Will I lose my property? What happens to that person who co-signed the debt? Well, let's talk first about creditors stop. Will the creditors stop harassing and calling? Absolutely. As soon as you file for bankruptcy, an automatic stay goes into effect, meaning nobody else, no creditors can try and collect money from you. Well, all you have to do, if they continue to call, hey, I filed for bankruptcy. Here's my case number. Don't call me again. If they do, if they continue to try, that's a violation of the automatic stay. Very bad for them to violate that. Now, can I keep my house from being foreclosed upon? What about my car being repossessed? Well, filing for bankruptcy, again, that automatic stay that goes into effect, filing for bankruptcy puts an immediate halt on any foreclosure, an eviction under most circumstances, or a repossession of the vehicle. However, it's likely only a temporary solution. Under a foreclosure action, if you can't pay off the what's due, that lender can come in and ask a month, 2 months down the line to continue with the foreclosure process. An eviction, the landlord can come in and say, you know what? it's beyond COVID now. I need to go ahead and get my property back so I can rent it again. But they have to ask the judge in your bankruptcy case to continue to do that. It's not just something they can automatically do. What automatically happens is you're protected for a couple more months. Will you lose property? This is one of the questions I get all the time. What about my house? What about my car? What about this 401k? What about this bank account? You're going to be able to keep your property. The purpose of a bankruptcy is for a debtor to get a fresh start. It's not, let's leave them destitute with no home, no cars, no personal items at all. It's to get the fresh start. And if you hire an attorney, the attorney's job is to look at what property you have and figure out how much of that you're going to be able to keep and claim those exemptions to say, creditors, you can't touch this property. Co-signing. We get a lot of questions on co-signing. You see this happen a lot between parents, between married couples. Let's say only one of the spouses is filing for bankruptcy, or even two people just together. They have a co-sign. If one of those signers files for bankruptcy, they don't have to pay it anymore. It falls 100% on the other. That's something to consider when filing for bankruptcy, but not to stop you from actually paying. So co-signing, you file for bankruptcy, you're going to go ahead and be relieved from paying that. The other person's not. So married couples, consider filing together. Or if both parties can't pay, might both have to file for bankruptcy. Okay. In a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, what debts can you actually discharge? When I say discharge, it means get rid of, not pay. Creditors, you don't owe them any money. You're going to keep that money in your pocket. Credit card debt, those unexpected medical bills, or even just medical bills that you couldn't pay because insurance didn't cover them. Personal loans. If you have a personal loan with the bank, credit union, or so forth, those are going to go away as well. Now, some debts are not dischargeable. Well, that means you're going to be stuck with them. What are those? Some back taxes. Some back taxes you can get rid of, but some back taxes you might not be able to discharge. If you owe spousal or child support, cannot bankrupt out of that. Quite frankly, you're still going to have to pay that. Student loans, you're stuck with those for life, essentially. There's some law that's coming around that may change that, but I don't see that in the foreseeable future. So, my opinion, you're stuck with your student loans. The process for a bankruptcy is rather simple. Get all the information together. You actually have to take a credit counseling course. File your petition. You got to take your second credit counseling course. You meet with the U.S. trustee. And you sit back and wait. 4 to 5 months later, you get that discharge. You don't owe that money anymore. During that 4 to 5 months, and even the month before that, after you filed, the creditors have stopped calling. You're not in danger of having a judgment enforced against you with a bank account being cleared out. You just sit back, wait, get that discharge, debt-free. Now, there are some downsides to filing for bankruptcy. There's a potential of that negative credit score. It can be difficult to open new lines of credit. However, there's ways to repair your credit. People can buy houses just a couple of years, 3, 4, 5 years after filing for bankruptcy. There's programs out there. Getting a new vehicle, opening up a credit card to establish that credit, to bring that credit score up. You'd be surprised at how fast your credit can actually recover after filing for a bankruptcy. There is a public filing, and that really everybody thinks that there's a stigma related to the bankruptcy because it's public record. Well, who in their right mind is going on creating an account to look through all the bankruptcy records to see if their neighbor filed for bankruptcy? You know what? Stigma be gone. In my opinion, there's absolutely no stigma related to filing for a bankruptcy. It's just going to help you get to a better position much, much faster. Okay, so we've talked about the debt crisis that is out there. Stop living with your debt crisis. What are your options? You can decide to do nothing at all. Keep making token payments here, not answering the phone when you don't recognize that number being dialed in, because it's either going to be a credit collection agency or somebody calling about a warranty that you didn't sign up for. So you really don't want to answer those calls, but you can just live with that harassment. Second option, you can actually try and do this yourself with regards to negotiating. Call up those credit card companies, call that debt collection agency or credit collection agency and say, hey, I can't pay the entire $2,000. I want to pay $1,200, $100 for each month for the next year and be done with it. They may be able to agree to that. You can try, but think about calling every single creditor, and they may not agree to it. And now they're just going to keep calling and calling and calling. We talked about debt relief or a consolidation companies where they'll act on your behalf. Dangers to that, you're still open to the threat of a lawsuit. Bank account being levied means that creditor can just reach into your bank account, take your money. Where are you going to pay your rent? Where are you going to pay the mortgage, your monthly bills and expenses after that? You do have the option of filing for bankruptcy yourself. I wouldn't advise that, but you can go online. There's various packets, self-help that you can look together. But like I mentioned before, hiring an attorney, if you have assets, that is the key thing that you want to do, because it is that attorney's job to protect those assets. Make sure that you keep everything that you're entitled to keep and get your fresh start. Should you hire a bankruptcy attorney because you decide that you want to go ahead and file for bankruptcy? Absolutely. There are so few bankruptcies filed by people that are self-represented because it can be a big process, a looming process. There's a lot of forms. Let the attorney do that. Like I see here, 50 plus pages of paperwork just to file. Protecting your assets. If you don't do it the right way, that trustee is going to come in and say, I'll go ahead and take that bank account. I'm going to pay some of these creditors over here. If you want somebody who can take this weight off of your shoulders, you can go through the process. We'll take you through that. We're actually here to do that. I started off this presentation by saying we help good people get out of debt so they can start their new tomorrow, because that's what we do. We want to make sure that you take this looming debt crisis or the debt crisis that you're in right now, help you out to get your fresh start in less than 6 months. So here's what we're going to do. I'm actually, because you're viewing this webinar, I'm going to go ahead and give you a special offer. If you go ahead and contact us in the next 72 hours, I'm going to go ahead and give you got this free 30-minute consultation with a member of our legal team. You're ready to take control of your situation. We're going to go through your debt, see if we can help. That's $150 value there. If you also schedule a consultation, we'll go ahead and cover the cost of a credit report. Because what we actually do is we import your credit report to make sure that all your creditors know they can't contact you anymore. That's up to a $55 value. And then we see a lot of times if you have a lawsuit that's been filed against you, credit card companies, You've been served. You were probably served with that 2 to 3 weeks ago. You have 30 days to respond. That means we're going to have to expedite this. If that has happened to you and you go ahead and schedule a consultation within the next 72 hours, just schedule it. We're going to go ahead and waive our expedited processing fee. That's $300 value. That means we've got to jump on this and get it done right away. We're going to go ahead and waive that. How do you get this special offer? How do you sign up? I want you to go to www.socaldebtfree.com. Make sure you put those W's in there. www.socaldebtfree.com. Book a consultation today. Like I said, 72 hours from now, if you go there, you book it, enter webinar in the offer code when scheduling that consultation, you are going to get that free 30-minute consultation, $150 value there. We're going to cover the cost of your credit report, and we are going to waive any expedited fee if that's over $500 of value to you. If you just go online, schedule that consultation at www.socaldebtfree.com. Book your consultation today. Make sure you enter webinar in the offer code. I want to thank you for joining me here today. If you have any questions, you can reach out to us. Our phone number is right there, 951-880-0800, or find us online at newtomorrowlaw.com. Don't forget your special offer in the next 72 hours. Go to www.socaldebtfree.com. We'll be here to help you out. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll talk soon.